In some places, the closer you get to the light, the more you are swallowed by darkness. And in Las Vegas, that darkness isn't just growing, it's turning the entire city into a stage for endless nights of sin. While Las Vegas still welcomes over 41.7 million visitors each year, ready to spend tens of thousands of dollars in a single night, it's also on the very streets just a few blocks from the Strip, where vice, homelessness, and despair are taking over every street. Every night in Las Vegas is a gamble, and not everyone is a gambler. There are games you don't realize you've been drawn into until honor, dignity, and sometimes even life, begin to be bargained with. In today's video, join us as we peel back the glittering facade of the city that never sleeps to discover a completely different Las Vegas. A place where even the police dare not tread, and sin becomes a part of the nightly rhythm of life. For first-time visitors to Las Vegas, the dazzling lights, all-night parties, and luxurious casinos can easily make them believe they've just stepped into an entertainment paradise. A place where all limits are pushed aside, all desires can be fulfilled, as long as you have money. But behind that glamorous facade lies a world that few dare to look at directly. A place where the night becomes a haven for vices and the darkest corners of America. Right in the middle of that dazzling strip, if you're willing to stop for a few minutes and look sideways at the less brightly lit sidewalks, you'll encounter a completely different image. Young, sexy women standing alone by the roadside, their eyes following the flow of cars as if searching for someone or something that could bring a small miracle to tonight. Despite these call for services behaviors being strictly prohibited, the reality is that they persist silently and steadily as an unnamed structural part of the dazzling nightscape of Vegas. According to a report from the Metro Police Department, the number of crimes and vices in the nighttime underground economy in the Las Vegas Strip area increased by 51% in just 1 year. What's remarkable is that those numbers don't come from the suburbs or remote areas, but from right in the heart of the tourist district, a place considered the most livable and safest. Part of the reason is the constant series of major events held here, which attract a huge number of people and put immense pressure on the authorities. But deeper down, it's a sign that Las Vegas is reaching a limit, where the light is no longer enough to cover the darkness, and every effort to maintain surface order is becoming increasingly fragile. This becomes even more apparent when looking at data from Metro Police. The Las Vegas Strip is home to 10 of the most dangerous crime hotspots in the city. Among them, the MGM Grand recorded nearly 2,500 emergency calls in a single year, the highest in the entire state. Caesar's Palace followed closely with 2,094 calls, and even Bellagio, a symbol of elegance and luxury, had 1,646 incidents. Places once seen as safe and glamorous have in reality become hotspots for chaos and disorder. But Las Vegas doesn't just face surface-level problems. Deeper down, even beneath the opulent casinos, lies an underworld where people live in conditions even more squalid than during wartime. Beneath the city, a system of tunnels over 600 miles long, originally built for flood control, has now become temporary shelter for over 1,500 homeless people. Not all of these people chose to live this kind of life underground, but it was precisely these unforeseen adversities that caused them to disappear from the surface, swallowed up by soaring rents, job losses after the pandemic, or simply having nowhere left to return to. They live in the shadows. No electricity, no clean water, no voice. Their lives depend on cardboard scraps, old blankets and fires made from scavenged items. Some people say they treasure hunt every day, looking for unworn Jordans, a broken watch, or a few items left behind after big events. In a world where they no longer have choices, any item they pick up could be the last thing that helps them feel they still have value. A former Wynn Hotel employee said he chose to live underground to avoid pitying glances. On the ground, I'm considered a failure. Down here, at least, I'm still recognized as a human being by the residents of this sewer. Perhaps those underground paths have no addresses and are not located on maps. But it's real. And most importantly, it's a symbol of what's happening, not just in Vegas, but potentially in any other major city, a society that is gradually stratifying, where light becomes a privilege and darkness is the final refuge for those on the margins. Las Vegas is still shining brightly every night. But perhaps what concerns people more is not the brightness, but what that light is illuminating. If a city can spend millions of dollars to light up the sky, why can't it illuminate the suffering of the people right below the surface? What you just saw on the Las Vegas Strip, no matter how chaotic, is still within an area heavily patrolled and closely monitored by police forces. But just a few blocks off the Strip, stepping onto Tropicana Avenue, you'll find a far more concerning reality, where even security forces are gradually retreating. According to data from the Spring Valley Police Department, an area that includes most of the Tropicana stretch, arrests related to the shady call for service of the girls there increased by as much as 267% in just 1 year. Tom Massey, who has run a store on Tropicana for over 20 years, shared, "Things have never disappeared, and it's becoming more serious than ever." That statement seems to reveal a truth that many residents of this area have gradually accepted the vices here don't necessarily stem from abnormality, but from the fact that it has become a new normal that residents here have to learn to get used to. Not just Tropicana, other areas of the city also saw increases. Downtown was up 102%, the convention center and the main strip were up over 22%. This shows that the phenomenon is no longer limited to one area, but is gradually spreading like an oil slick that no one can control. Deputy Police Chief Nick Farisi emphasized that 84 individuals allegedly running illegal operations were arrested in the past year. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The submerged part are the women who have no voice. People who are not at all voluntary, as many still think. They are controlled, their papers are taken, they are forced, they are starved, and often they are stripped of their belief that they deserve a different life. That's why Las Vegas police are shifting from a crackdown approach to one of support. Each month they organize stand-down events, providing temporary shelter, food, clothing, and counseling services to people who have fallen on hard times. According to the latest statistics, 70% of people reached from vulnerable groups are ready to accept help. A very high percentage indicating that not everyone wants to stay in the dark. They just haven't been given the key to open the door and step out. Alongside law enforcement, local community groups are also taking action. The Tropicana Business Community Coalition, a local business alliance, has partnered with police, county government, and community organizations to create a system for sharing information, issuing alerts, and developing comprehensive solutions. For them, this is not just a security issue, it's a matter of community ethics. And it's not just the police's job, it's the responsibility of everyone who lives, works, and hopes for a better Las Vegas. Tropicana is not a place tourists go to take photos or enjoy performances. But precisely because of this, it becomes the most honest place about the price a city pays for its glitz. There, the police are no longer just the arresting officers, they are listeners. Businesses are no longer just places to sell goods, they are links in protecting the community. And those who seem forgotten are starting to be called by name again, not by their criminal records, but by the opportunity to start over. Can models like Tropicana be replicated, or will they remain an exception in a city accustomed to hiding pain beneath a layer of glittering light? At the intersection of Sahara and Maryland Parkway, a quiet but haunting scene is slowly unfolding. Initially, there were just a few old rickety shopping carts huddled by the roadside, as if waiting for someone to take them away. But over time, they were pieced together, covered with tarpaulins, scraps of wood, and whatever could be scavenged, forming a small camp which locals now informally called Tent City. There, people built fires with newspaper to stay warm at night, cooked next to utility poles, and found a bit of privacy amidst the public space, as if redefining the concept of home. Those images, for many people, are no longer something too unfamiliar. But when it's right next to commercial routes, where shops, restaurants, and a constant stream of traffic still exist, a feeling of isolation and unease begins to creep in. Some nearby businesses have spoken out, expressing concern that customers will not return after seeing those collapsed scenes and that revenue will be significantly affected. Meanwhile, the authorities and land managers said they were seeking humanitarian options. No one wants to simply chase them away. only to see those camps pop up again on another street corner. But it seems that every solution falls into a loop. Clark County spent up to $5 million just to clear the camps in the Flamingo Wash tunnel system, and then not long after the carts reappeared in the Sahara. The people in the camp were used to it. They packed their belongings beforehand, as if they were always ready for the next journey, even though they didn't know where they were going. At community meetings, residents' voices seemed to have become more strained. They weren't just worried about order, but also angry at the feeling of being abandoned, that the problem wasn't being solved, just cycled from one area to another in the Las Vegas Valley. A 67-year-old man was once offered subsidized housing by the city, but he declined. "It's dirty, and there are cockroaches there," he said. "Living outdoors is cleaner. I just need a real chance to start over." Las Vegas is currently ranked 11th in the United States for the number of homeless people, trailing only names already associated with crises such as San Francisco. And if the federal budget for HUD is cut, as some recent proposals suggest, over 400 people in Nevada are at risk of becoming homeless again in the next few months, and that number of 400 doesn't exclude the possibility that you could be among them. Perhaps the most thought-provoking thing isn't that a camp was cleared, but the question is, what then? Without a long-term humane and substantive solution, clearing one camp is just moving despair from one street corner to another. And then at some point, those tent cities will no longer be on the outskirts of the city, but right at our front doors. Is the real concern not just the proliferation of tent cities, but when they become the least bad option for thousands who were once part of this society? And if the city no longer has enough room for the most vulnerable, then who is the American dream for? There was a time when Las Vegas was a place where any dream could begin with just a few coins. A lavish buffet for under $10. A hotel room on the Strip is only $39 a night, including breakfast. A ticket to the show, a cocktail, and the belief that even if you arrive with a tight budget, you'll still be treated like royalty. It's an image of a cheap Las Vegas. Inexpensive, but not cheap, generous, but not pretentious. But that Las Vegas seems to be gone. In just 5 years, the average hotel room price in Vegas has increased by nearly 60%, reaching $180 a night. Not including additional fees such as resort fee, concession fee, or even recovery fee after the pandemic, which can push the final price up to $250, $300 a night, even at mid-range hotels. Meanwhile, long-term rental prices in Las Vegas are also skyrocketing. According to statistical data, the average rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in Vegas has now surpassed $1,600 a month, the highest level in the city's history. The irony is that while the cost of living is skyrocketing, wages are not keeping pace. In 2024, Las Vegas recorded an unemployment rate of 5.5%, nearly 2 percentage points higher than the national average. The hardest hit sectors were hospitality, food service, and entertainment, which were once the city's economic pillars. A series of small casinos have laid off employees due to automation, digital transformation, or simply because customer traffic is no longer as stable as before. For those who once lived on shift work tips, and overtime uncertainty is now a constant reality. A 59-year-old woman. She used to be a housekeeper at a 4-star hotel on the Strip, and she shared that she was able to make ends meet and even save some money. But now with the same salary, she can't afford rent, utilities, and the cost of raising 2 young children. I feel guilty towards my children for having to let them live in this situation. With each passing month, I feel like I'm being pushed further and further away from this city. Not a few people like her have chosen to leave Vegas and seek out other states with a lower cost of living. The population in Clark County is still increasing slightly due to immigration from other states, but the flow is changing. The wealthy still come here to invest in real estate or vacation, but the working class, the backbone of Vegas, is quietly retreating. And what worries many people even more is that no one seems to have a long-term plan for the city. When the entertainment industry declines, when huge sums are poured into sporting events like F1 and the Super Bowl without improving the livelihoods of the indigenous people, the question arises, who really still has a place in this city? Is Vegas becoming a playground only for the wealthy? A luxurious oasis in the desert built on lights, but also ready to burn out anyone who can't withstand the price storm? And if even the cheapest city in America is becoming too expensive to live in every day, what can we expect from the rest of the country? Amidst the never-ending neon lights and the endless spinning of roulette wheels, something is quietly crumbling. It's the very spirit of the people who make up this city. Las Vegas is not just a tourist destination. For hundreds of thousands of local residents, this was once a place of livelihood where they placed their hopes for a stable, though simple but sufficient, life. But when housing prices, gasoline prices, and insurance costs all rise simultaneously, and when working hours are longer, but wages remain the same, mental health becomes a luxury for many residents. According to the Southern Nevada Health District, the number of emergency calls related to mental health crises in Clark County has increased significantly over the past 5 years. Among them, nearly 30% are over 55 years old, people who were once the pillars of this city, but are now struggling with an increasingly unstable life. Major casinos like the MGM Grand Bellagio and Caesars Palace are still dazzling, still putting on shows worth tens of millions of dollars, and still welcoming tens of thousands of visitors each week. But behind the scenes, there's a team of staff who have to do 2-3 jobs just to make ends meet, and many of them have to turn to free counseling services provided by non-profit organizations like Nevada Mental Health Services, simply because they can't afford a standard therapy session at clinics like BetterHelp or TalkSpace. A 69-year-old homeless man who used to be a lighting technician at a famous showroom on the Strip said that after the pandemic, everything inside him shattered like a light bulb with a blown fuse. Losing his job, his wife separating from him, his daughter moving out, and finally months of living on sleeping pills and cheap coffee from 7-Eleven. "No one taught me how to start over at this age," he said, "and I'm not even sure I have enough time left." Meanwhile, Nevada's public mental health system is under significant pressure. There is a severe shortage of specialist doctors. Many patients wait 3 to 4 weeks for a doctor's appointment, leading to self-treatment with over-the-counter medications or worse, letting their emotions drift. At a Circle K gas station near Fremont Street, an elderly man was found slumped over the steering wheel for hours, with a few boxes of milk, a sleeping bag, and some cheap multivitamins from Walmart inside the car. It's unknown if he had anywhere to go, but someone quietly left a bottle of water and a loaf of bread beside him. A message from a city that hadn't completely lost its compassion. Is Las Vegas facing not only an economic or social crisis, but also a crisis in the very soul of the city? When the glitz becomes a mask and behind it are silent sighs, will we still have time to mend the increasingly deep cracks? If you've ever witnessed something similar in your neighborhood, a row of makeshift tents, an elderly person standing alone at the bus stop, or a once bustling commercial area now displaying a Felice sign, please share in the comments section below. We believe that those small stories are the pieces of the larger picture that the entire country needs to confront. If Las Vegas was once known as the place where anything can happen, today it seems something else is becoming increasingly apparent. All limits are also gradually being blurred. In some sections of the valley south of the city, the law doesn't exactly disappear. It simply isn't present at the right time when needed. At the intersection of Tropicana Avenue and Decatur Boulevard, where the main traffic artery once led visitors to hotels like Excalibur Luxor or the Allegiant Stadium area, it is now a random gathering spot for nameless homeless individuals with nothing left to lose. Those whom society calls homeless, but in their own stories they were once mechanics, taxi drivers, security guards. They had addresses, and some were even small business owners. As the policy of clearing homeless camps was aggressively implemented around the Flamingo Wash Tunnel system, many people were forced to relocate, but without clear guidance on where to go next. And when they had nowhere else to go, they chose places where no one else wanted to be empty. Lots, underpasses, sidewalks next to gas stations, places where security cameras couldn't reach and the police were only fleeting like the shadow of a patrol car. The Spring Valley area police chief admitted that, "We can't be everywhere. We are overloaded." That phrase, which seemed like a mere administrative explanation, was like a heartbreaking admission that even the law enforcement system was gradually retreating from the city's dark corners. Meanwhile, small businesses on main roads like Flamingo or Paradise Road are starting to organize their own private security forces, erect fences and rent AI cameras from companies like ADT Ring or SimpliSafe. But fencing off a corner of the street doesn't mean healing the wounds of the entire neighborhood. It only makes the fragmentation more pronounced between those who are protected and those who are left behind. So what will we do when the very people who once obeyed the law and contributed to building society are now marginalized by that same system? And if they have no support system to return to, are we inadvertently allowing a part of America to fall into oblivion? Las Vegas was once a symbol of aspiration and breakthrough. A place where people come to try their luck to start over or simply to escape the daily grind. But after everything we've just witnessed, the brightly lit but unstable streets, the dark tunnels hiding thousands of forgotten lives, and the unanswered cries for help in the night. Perhaps the bigger question to ask is, does the American dream still have a place for those left behind? Perhaps it's time we stop seeing Vegas as an isolated phenomenon and instead as a mirror reflecting the future of cities losing cohesion, where laws can't keep up with despair and where the most ordinary people become the most easily forgotten victims. If what you just saw resonated with you in any way, please leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe so we can continue to tell stories that not everyone is willing to listen to, but everyone needs to know. Each share is an opportunity to add one more person who understands, one more person who cares, and one more ray of hope for those whose lives are lived in silence. This video is not intended to condemn any organization, individual or political group. All information presented is based on publicly available data, official reports, and field observations from multiple perspectives. The stories, images, and perspectives presented are educational in nature, reflecting social realities to stimulate constructive discussion without creating incitement, panic, or stereotyping. We do not condone any illegal behavior, normalize suffering, or turn human misery into entertainment. This is not a conclusion, but an invitation to reflect together, to dialogue together, and to hold on to the remaining humanity within each of us.